Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to Stratosphere Studio. Let's go grab our friends over on Twitch here real quick. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. I am your host, Bill Whittle. It is the 6th of January. It's J6, 2025. I've always liked odd number years. Always just, I don't know why. They just always seem to be better for me. Probably because I was born in one. I was born in the 1950s. That's kind of shocking. Proud of it, but it's kind of shocking. Just barely, but Anyway, hope everybody's doing well. It's good to be here. We got our usual company in the back here, and hope everybody is doing well. Let's see. Just in general news, Scott's. We have a ongoing three-way chat with Steve and Scott and I, just dropping weird stuff in there during the course of the week. We're shooting our right angles tomorrow morning, and Scott sent the link to Kamala Harris making the announcement that she'd certified the vote. And Scott said, "Is it just me, or does she look like she slept on the sidewalk last night?" She didn't look that happy. I said, "It's not that she slept on the sidewalk. She's just tired. She's waiting for her container ship of wine to clear customs at Long Beach. Um, it's just so satisfying. I'm not, I mean, I almost said I'm not naturally a mean-spirited person. I might in fact be naturally a mean-spirited person, but I have a lot of sympathy for people because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and so that tends to make you a little more tolerant of other people, and there are times when I feel like I don't really, it's not really right to be piling up on Kamala like this. And then I just go back to thinking, no, she said Nazis, she said fascists. She's like, you deserve all of this, you and that other harpy, who also is a perpetual loser, who was just awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom along with George frickin' Soros. So you can pretty much yet another American institution you can just kick out the window. It's like, oh, George Soros, we might as well just give it to Stalin. Um, so anyway, it was satisfying, but I found myself yelling at the TV screen again as usual, and 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 over the same thing. We got to put an end. This is going to be a a goal of mine. Um, uh, to this talk about our democracy. It's not accidental. It's not like she doesn't know. Although, did you guys see the clip of her leading the Senate, or it looked like it was the House, in the Pledge of Allegiance, and she got the Pledge of Allegiance wrong? That was, you can't make that stuff up. I pledge allegiance to the United States, and everybody else is going to the flag, to the flag of the United States of America. And then if you really have a good ear, you could realize that for the rest of the Pledge of Allegiance, she wasn't leading it; she was actually following it. She was actually following it to make sure that she didn't screw it up again. Perfect. But we got to stop this democracy thing. You know, our democracy. Once again, our democracy. It's not a democracy. Democracies are terrible. We just need to get out there, because, like I said before, many times, many times, if we live in a democracy, then the party that sounds like it represents the country is the Democratic Party. If you live in a republic, then the party that sounds like it represents the country is the Republican Party, and the Republicans are too stupid to figure this out. We should the speaker and President Trump and everybody else should never ever let that phrase pass somebody's lips without correcting them. You should just jump on this. You just leap on it every time. Just pounce. Don't let them finish the sentence. Our democracy. It's not a democracy, and you should know better. You do know better. Well, democracy is important. No, democracy is a terrible idea. That's why we're not a democracy. We're a republic. All you can do in a democracy is vote people's rights away. That's all you can do. It's just so lame on our part. I understand why they're doing it. They're advancing the brand. It's not an accident, like I said. But it's time to really just say, oh, Omega Yang 802. I'm gonna have to say that that's got to be an Omega Glory reference, because you chose the Yangs and it's not Omega Com 802. So I say your democracy is for Shinola. I swear like a sailor in private. I just don't swear very often at all on this show or any other show, because I have a lot of respect for the fact that many people in this audience of ours don't like profanity, and I don't like it from other people either, especially when you like a TikTok video. So let me get one thing effing straight. It's like, oh, okay. So I'm able to control myself, and I don't drop f bombs like they're like Johnny Apples, like Johnny f bomb seed. It's going around the country just broadcasting hither and yon. But yeah, it's so important, and we're so um, uh, blind rhetorically. We're just so rhetorically blind. I keep meaning I got see I make notes about things, and I've got some notes down. One of them is update the Stratosphere Studio opening, because those TV shows get a little old, which we run on Twitch prior to the live stream happening on YouTube. It's kind of fun walk-in music. I need to contact Evan Sayet about whether or not he'll let me run his. He's got this routine about how liberals are only good at things where you don't do anything. It's just blood. I think it's the most brilliant piece of political. I think it's the most brilliant comedic political routine I've heard. It's just absolutely brilliant, and and we were at Natasha and I and Evan were invited to a house in Hawaii, so we spent 3 or 4 days out there at this house in Hawaii, and late at night after a few drinks, I begged him to do this routine, and he did it, and I just recorded it on my iPhone. I think it's the best version of it. I've got to email him and ask for permission just to run it during Stratosphere Studio. You know what else I need to do during Stratosphere Studio? I have I'm very grateful to the indispensable Marusha Dark for this. Talk all the time, but working in the Miami Planetarium, and Jack Horkheimer wrote a show, which was the show I first saw at the Miami Planetarium when I first got there, about the Apollo program, called Long Journey of a Young God, and everything that happened in Apollo 11, what we saw, is directly traceable to the influence that show had on me as a 13-year-old. And I said, man, the soundtrack was just so great, and there may be some, which I still find hard to believe, but there still may be some secondary interest. Not only is it interesting and completely standalone as an hour-long show, a 56 minutes, something like that, but some people might be interested in knowing the kind of stuff that this 13-year-old kid listened to all day, because that show touches on everything. It touches on Joseph Campbell in the journey of the hero. It touches on the mythology of Apollo. It's got a couple of science fiction segments starring Leonard Nimoy. It's just so bloody deep and so interesting. So I said, geez, I wish there was somebody saved a copy. And Marusha Dark got out there on the internet and looked up a copy and sent a link to it. And the copy, to be honest with you, was in really, really bad shape. And I'm not an audio guy, but I do have Adobe Audition, and I spent about 2 hours cleaning that up as much as possible, and got it to the point where it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's certainly not a high fidelity recording of it, but it's you can clearly comprehend it. And what I want to do is I just want to play that during the Stratosphere Studio. It's an hour, but it's just such a damn good hour. And based on people's reactions, voluminous free time, what I can do is I can cut picture to that, because I glacier grilled the audio, says Marisha. That's exactly what I did. I restored it, lovingly, I might add. But I remember all of the pictures, which were individual slides up on a projector, up on a dome, on the inside of a dome. And so I can recreate the visuals and bring Long Journey back to life, and probably make it visually look better than it did when it ran. And I really want to do that. So I'm tempted to, I really should make an announcement before we do that. So I might do that next Monday night. Just, open the show, let a little crowd gather around the fire, and then just treat you guys to 56 minutes of just really deep reflection on what the Apollo program meant mythologically, and have people exposed to just the sheer genius of Jack Horkheimer, who was so much more than Star Hustler or Stargazer, or what I guess is what he became, Stargazer. He was originally called Star Hustler. He loved that name. He just loved the idea of being the guy who was, handing out, $5 maps to the stars home kind of thing. But if you saw Star Hustler on PBS, and a lot of people did, the character he played, I never ever could. Not only did I not like the character that Horkheimer played on Star Hustler, because it is a character. It's practically Dr. Smith, It's pretty nearly Dr. Smith, and it's just a little bit queer, for how serious this guy could be. He was always, addicted to camp, and he liked making fun of, just like that kind of compulsive making fun of things. He did a show about Mars called Buck Rogers Right On, and he really camped it up in that. He just liked corny stuff like that. But when you see the genius of this guy, if I do that, then I'll do that, and then maybe I'll go out and get Child of the Universe, do that second. That was his most popular show, and it's about man's place in the universe. And this thing starts off with the walk-in music for Child of the Universe is Lotte Lenya and Kurt Weill, German composer, and his wife, who went on to become a American movie villain. She was the villain in something Krebs, Olga Krebs, something, Rosa Krebs, in From Russia with Love. But in the 30s, she was a cabaret singer. She was really essentially who Sally Bowles was based on in Cabaret. So Lotte Lenya and Kurt Weill wrote this nihilistic music and sang it, and Jack played it in German and with English translations while people are walking into the planetarium. So people come in thinking they're getting a star show, and they're listening to music from 1930s German cabaret, and you're thinking, what the hell does this got to do with anything? And the entire purpose of the show was to show the cosmic perspective in this idea, which is espoused by famous idiots like Neil deGrasse Tyson, that we're just a speck in the universe. We're just a pale blue dot. We're a single pixel. The cold, uncaring universe. We're nothing. Tyson had the nerve to say if aliens visited the solar system, they wouldn't even bother stopping at Earth. No, they'd have a look at Saturn and maybe admire Jupiter, gas giants that are universal throughout the entire galaxy. They would skip that blue dot, that insignificant blue dot with its billions of species and its advanced life forms and its civilization and its art. No, they wouldn't even. It's such a weak derivative virtue signal, He wants to be Carl Sagan so bad, that idiot, and he's not fit to shine Carl Sagan's shoes. or to static electrify his Carl Sagan's fuzzy little loafers. Hang on. Marisha Dark with another link. Several Jack Horkheimer vids, including Child of the Universe. Oh my God. What have you found? The Legacy. 1,400 light years and beyond. Star of Bethlehem. The Loneliness Factor. I vaguely remember that. Oh my God! This is Marisha. You've outdone yourself, and you have done plenty in the past. 1,400 light years beyond was an incredible show. That was about the Orion Nebula. Star of Bethlehem was about the Christmas stars. Our Christmas show ran that every year at Christmas. Hang on a second. Let me just have a quick look here. Show soundtrack, the last question. The last question was the Isaac Asimov Planetarium show, which they took a short story which probably could have done in 4 minutes and turned it into 48 minutes and 21 seconds of horror. Just checking here. A lot of Planetarium shows here. Child of the Universe Planetarium show soundtrack by Jack Horkheimer. All right, I saved this page, Marisha. Thanks. Let me just hear, because let me just play Child real quick, because Long Journey was in bad shape. Let me just play Child. Attitude.
Attitude. Your disposition, feelings, manner toward people, things. As changing as the colors and forms in a child's kaleidoscope. Man can be blessed by his attitudes, or cursed by them. They can carry him to the heights of the best within him, or plunge him to the depths of his most...
Sorry, I'm getting rid of the echo. Hang on.
...capabilities. They can carry him to the Our time has seen the worst of these, and hopefully the best are yet to come.
Sorry, I'm getting rid of the echo. Hang on.
Sociologists claim that if you examine the art forms of a particular culture, you can tell where that culture is headed and what its values are.
Sorry, I'm getting rid of the echo. Hang on.
Remember the Great Wars? Claim that if you examine the art Remember Germany? Of a particular culture, you can tell Some saw man's indifference to himself and others building up like a great dark storm cloud in the distance. One of those men was a German. His name was Kurt Weill. He was a composer. He was perhaps one of the best popular interpreters of an age of disillusionment and indifference. And his art form was the pre-war Berlin theater. He spelled out the values of his society well, so well that he eventually had to flee his homeland. His wife, Lotte Lenya, a sensation in her era, sang his works that seem strange, almost bizarre in our time and place. But then our own popular music of the 30s appears peculiar to us now, and some wonder aloud, how could we ever have enjoyed that? The music you heard as you entered the planetarium was Weill's and Lenya's, and you might well ask, what does this have to do with the stars and the cosmos? Be patient, please, for our story is an intricate one. A story that asks you to open your mind, as well as your eyes and ears. Sit back, relax, concentrate. The curtain is about to go up. The stage is the universe.
Wow. It's that audio is in in perfect condition. I'm sorry it took so long for me. I had actually had two windows open. I didn't realize I kept muting the Twitch feedback, and then turned out I had a second Twitch window. That is from my Planetarium days, and it's in immaculate condition. That is in absolutely immaculate condition. That voice belonged to Bill Hinman, who was one of the best people I knew. He was the voice of the Miami Planetarium. He was just a tremendous voiceover guy. He was what was his name? There's a classical music station in Miami. I want to say it was WTMI. If it was WTMI, then my memory is hanging in there. Hang on a second. No, Fleming, I bet it was, though, back classical station. If I got this right, I'll be very, very, very impressed. On the end of WTMI 93.1 Classical FM in Miami. He was Alan. Hang on, the internet is amazing. This is for the one or two people out there who would have maybe heard him. Florida actor Bill Hinman, dead at 76. 76. And this is from 1999. 1999. What was his? He had a. I'm sorry to put everybody on hold like this. I miss him. He was a wonderful man. Mr. Hyman settled in Miami in 1964. He worked at the Miami Museum of Science and Space Transit Planetarium at WTMI Radio. He was also a member of Players Theater, which was that theater company I mentioned a couple shows ago, which eventually moved to the Museum of Science Coconut Grove Playhouse. He was... he had a stage name. I'm trying to find it. Oh, well, I'm not going to keep people waiting forever. I'm just checking this as fast as I can here. Alan Corbett. That came to me from memory. It still hasn't shown up here. It may or may not be in the article, but man, that actually impresses me. Alan, I'm virtually positive it was Alan Corbett. Yeah, he was just a terrific guy. Yes, Chris Elisar. Well, there's at least one. I knew there'd be at least one person who would get it. Hey, there's a super chat from Rodzilla for $10. Hail, Bill. Hail. What do we? Hang on a second. Did my Twitch stream freeze? My picture in Twitch froze. That's better. What do we need to do exactly in explicit terms to get you back in the pilot seat so you can do some live streams from the cockpit? Well, that's an interesting question. And got something to do with some thinking I've got. In order to get me back into the cockpit, I need to write Big Bat Problems, which is something I'll talk to you about in just a second. WTMI, Miami. Yeah, Alan Corbett. And it just had this voice like honey. And such a professional. In Long Journey of a Young God, the solar system, the actual Apollo sequence, in the actual recounting of the Apollo program, which was so difficult to run, by far the most difficult thing we had to do in terms of manual operation of the planetarium was the Apollo sequence in Long Journey of a Young God. And that was narrated by a woman named Sally Jesse, who eventually went on to become somewhat famous as Sally Jesse Raphael. So all of this Miami talent. Bill Hinman was just such a gentleman. Did somebody help me here? I don't know if I did. I might have. I think I just might have mentioned it during New Year's. I didn't tell the story about my Players Theater New Year's, did I? I don't think I've ever told that story before. Hey, what do you know? Here's something that's not on the bingo cards. So I started working at the Miami Planetarium in 1973, and by '74 I was, I was a console operator. I think by '74, which is still astonishing even to me. That Jack Horkheimer had that kind of trust in a 14-year-old kid to let him run public shows, but he did. I and somewhere around 1975, right in that neighborhood, a theater company formed, and they had no place to perform, so they performed at the auditorium in the Museum of Science. Lapco 92 says, "Yeah, it's old man story time." Well, I tell you, back when I was a boy. Leonard Nimoy narrated A Long Journey of a Young God. So, all of a sudden, here I am, 15 years old, and all into the whole, this really, actually, the more I think about it, the more I realize this is pretty much all you need to know about me. I was at the same building every single day of my life, and there was a magic period there for about 3 years, I want to say, something like that, before they got big enough to move to an actual proper theater. But for a couple years at the Miami Museum of Science, in the auditorium where they would give science lectures, they had Players Theater, which is, I don't know if it's still there, but it became a big deal in Miami. Repertory company. Half a century ago. Feeling it? Yeah, well, thanks very much, Lapco. I appreciate it. My 1, 2, 3. So, I did the same thing for them that I did at the Miami Planetarium. I was just ushering. I just took tickets and showed people to their seats with it. And I was exposed to live theater. The first show they ever showed there that I ever saw there was a show called You Can't Take It With You, which by happy coincidence was the first time I was ever on stage was in You Can't Take It With You. I don't know, 10 years after that, probably something like that. It's a comedy, and it's a really, really great great show, and the movie's pretty much captures it too. But it's kind of a zany, a screwball comedy, and I was just smitten by these people. Unlike the nerdy, dorky Phil Tricks of the world and Bill Whittles of the world and Doug Gagans of the world, these people had just really great. They just had glamour, and they were just so interesting. Everything they do was, well, it was theatrical. So their speech was theatrical, and they would be constantly acting things out, and they were just so bloody fascinating and just so cool. Had this huge crush on one of these actresses, just gigantic. And after helping them out, and by the way, this is in Miami. It's been known to rain there, unlike Florida, where they call out the news helicopters if it starts raining. It's been known to rain in Florida, and there was no backstage. It's just an auditorium. It wasn't designed to be a theater. There's no wings. You just, off the side of the steps, there's a small little room that's just enough to get out of there. And I can't describe her, Eric. There's no way I could. There's no way I could reproduce what 15-year-old hormones were doing to this kid. No. Anyway, when in Players Theater, no, she wasn't blonde. In Players Theater, when you were off stage, you were outside. So if it was raining outside, somebody had to stand there with an umbrella and keep these actors in their costumes dry, and that was usually me. So I got in with the crowd. They really liked me, for the same reason I guess that the Miami people did. They just took pity on this puppy dog who, was just like so enthusiastic and just thought, I want to help I'll do anything I can. And so they invited me to this New Year's party. And I was 15, and I found myself at this New Year's party at this house out in Coconut Grove. this kind of really cool, artistic, kind of remote house out in the middle of nowhere, And everybody was there, and they they had um, they had this tradition, and I got there around 10, I guess, something like that. And I was 10 years younger than the next youngest person. I was just, I couldn't believe I was there. It was one of those, it was probably different for most of you guys. It was certainly a lot more memorable and probably traumatic for me because I went to an all boys school. So there comes a point when this has got to be true for pretty much everybody. There comes a point when you go to your first party that's kind of like a teen party, and there's like boy girl interactions. It's like this is like the first of the kind of post cooties parties, right? I mean, surely that's not just me that went through these kind of things. And there's things where you start passing the apple, underneath your neck, and you start, and it's just kind of like, wow, this is really cool, and it's also like really, really kind of like, holy cow, man. Um, so, um, so uh, I'm at this party, and I can't believe it. And of course, she's there, and all of these other gorgeous people are there, and I'm just soaking it up. And so at 10 o'clock on the dot, they opened up a new bottle of wine, and everybody had a sip of this new wine and a new kind of cheese. And then they did this every hour until I was there till 6, I think, till 6 in the morning. I was certainly there till 5. My mom had a lot of confidence in her kids. She said, "Don't do anything stupid." So then 11 o'clock comes, and they crack open a new bottle of wine, and they give me like a little sip. They took good care of me. They really did. They said, "All right, you can just give them a taste. Don't, for God's sakes, don't get them drunk." This was a different time. I mean, today these people would have been put in jail. This miserable, horrible, authoritarian helicopter era that we live in. But uh, the so we get a different wine and different cheese. 11 o'clock rolls around, different wine, different cheese. Midnight rolls around, champagne. I'm drinking champagne with actors, and everybody's singing, and they're doing show tunes. And then there's some skinny dipping going on out in the back there, which I'm kind of interested in, but also not going to look too, I don't want to be the creep that's looking out the window kind of thing, It's like, okay, so then they start talking politics. And they weren't talking, as I recall, they weren't. This was a different time, man. It was before the left really became the left. They were all liberals, but they weren't. Progressives. Um, and um, and they were talking about. We were talking about nuclear war. And I'm just listening to these people, they're just chatting about it. Oh my God, are we going to survive? Are we going to get nuked in the middle of Act Two tomorrow night? There's this and that, and Brezhnev, and all I remember about that conversation was I said somewhere in there, I said, if we can make it through the 80s, we'll be okay. This was in '75, and they all looked at me like, what did you just say? I said, if we make it through the 80s, we'll be okay. What makes you say that? Well, I mean, things are coming to a head, we're bringing new, but of course by then I'm already Mr. Military hardware guys, So I said, we got the F-15 Eagles coming online now, and Soviet conventional strength is getting stronger, but our tactical nuclear, it was something along these lines. I'm not trying to impress people. I'm just rehearsing all of the stuff I learned from all the plastic models I built, because I built models of the T-72s and the M60. I built models of everything, and they're looking at me like I'm from Mars, and in a nice way. And then 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and next thing you know, man, we're having a different bottle of wine and a different cheese, and Bill Hinman was there in the middle of it, and he was the guy who really kind of took care of me, just made sure that I had a good time, but didn't have too much wine, and it was just epic. My whole teen years were spent around people that were 10, 15 years older than me, and it did me an awful lot of good, and it did me an awful lot of harm, because I never caught up to in high school. I was just completely on my own planet when it came to people my age. I didn't know. I was, yeah, I was Lord God King of the nerds. Um, and and so it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I kept thinking, because I'd come from Bermuda, and in British schools it was segregated boy-girls schools, so I didn't have a lot of experience. All these people that I'm in junior high and high school with, not only had they been around girls all the time in everyday class, to me they were, parachuted in from St. Mary's or whatever the hell the girls' school down the street was. Um, and and I kept thinking I'm going to catch up, but what actually happened was um, the train just kept getting further and further away from me the faster I ran. It's like at the end of Von Ryan's Express, the faster I run to catch up, the faster it's accelerating away from me. So I didn't get things figured out till, man, I don't know. I didn't really, really get it figured out, really, really, really get it figured out till I was nearly 50. But I started to get the hang of it probably by the time I was around 25, 26, 27, started to, and I look back on all these opportunities that I had. I was just too stupid to pick up on, just makes me want to, geez, Bill, would you want an engraved invitation? Apparently that's what I needed. Yes, an engraved invitation. And I wanted it delivered in a pretty red envelope with a bow around it, apparently. So anyway, yeah. Thank you, Marusha, for that. I saved that link to that place. So I will. I think maybe, hopefully next week, I'll just play the soundtrack for Long Journey of a Young God, and we can all just kind of sit back and just groove. I'll just put a picture of Horkheimer up, and I'll put Long Journey underneath it, and if it turns out that people think it's worth it, then I will go to the trouble, and not because I have any. And God knows the last thing I need is to take on something else. But I feel very strongly about this because I speak very highly of Jack Horkheimer because he deserved it. But he made everybody that worked for him bat guano crazy. I mean, he was enough to. I was doing Planetarium show press previews, and he had guys like Phil, who's the most stable person that's ever walked this earth, and Phil, sweating bullets because the audience is filing into the Planetarium, and Phil is he's still got 2 more tracks to mix before the master gets run to the back, and we start how much time we have? We got 8 minutes. We got 8 minutes to do a 4-minute dissolve, and then a 2-minute close. Okay. I was hi T. Mooney. There's a big capital Hi Bill. It's always nice when people shout from the crowd. But he made me hyperventilate. He got me so worked up once that I actually, because I was terrified of him in a lot of ways. He was a really, really difficult guy to work for. Real quick, very sarcastic, and just people just hated working with him. He made life miserable for everybody. He just came in and just took it out on everybody. I'm sorry to, it's Jack Horkheimer was definitely a two-sided coin. It's only recently, in fact, in the last 10 years of my life or so, that I appreciated how much he's done for me. If you'd asked me about this 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I would have just said nothing but bad things about the guy, because he made us all nuts. He just, one time, I was running the press preview. So Horkheimer is as Horkheimer is ever going to get. He's the host. He's invited all of the Miami press, all of the Miami VIPs, all the bigwigs. Everybody came to Horkheimer's parties because Jack was so outrageous and because the shows were good. So we got this big thing out in the lobby, and everybody's all liquored up, and they're filing into the Planetarium, and I've got this script. I know the show because I've been building slides for it. Been opaquing slides out on our little light table here, like crazy people. Apparently, because the water in Miami didn't get cold enough to fully develop Codolith, which is a very, very high contrast film stock. So if we wanted a title, if we wanted words up there, we'd photograph it and shoot it in Codolith. And then the codolith was never developed correctly, and so it would give a gray frame up there where the frame of the slide was. We had to go in there with this bloody, horrible crud. It was like mud. It's like painting with mud. It's this ochre red kind of stuff that you would paint onto the glass, and you had to like get in between the lines. It was hideous. It's horrible. And so we're opaquing slides and stuffing them into projectors. And I'm marking off the script, and Phil's working on the soundtrack, and people are filing into the dome. And we're just, when Jack would leave the room for a second, we was like, you had 9 weeks to prepare for this. And then, it turns out I got the exact same virus that Jack did. It's a showbiz virus. That's just show business. There's no way to explain it. That's just how things work. You just got to get ready for it, because if you can't handle the heat, you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. So one of these shows that I think it might have been Night of the Red Moon, or it might have been 1400 Light Years Beyond, which is why I was so blown away to see those other shows there. But it was a press preview, and I'm pretty sure Phil had left by this point. And I've got 35 or 40 pieces of paper. I've got photocopy of the script, and it's just the narration. And Horkheimer is going through there, and he's saying, and he's underlining words. And on this word, you bring up this slide. On this word, you bring up this slide. So I'm going 5, 6, 5, 6, because our two center projectors were 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, and 4 projectors. 1, 2, and 3, and 4 were the side projectors, and then 5 and 6 in the center, and these things would just cross dissolve, and I had to do all these dissolves manually, which was like this: advance, 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 manually advancing these slide projectors and manually doing the dissolves. Wasn't hitting the dissolve button, because that dissolve looks like crap. A really good slide dissolve is different every single time you do one, because an automatic dissolve starts taking the image down, so it starts to get dark, and then it gets brighter again. But a perfectly done manual dissolve, which is what Doug Gagan and I were locked head-to-head Mortal Kombat with on who could do this best. The light level would just stay the same. You'd bring that incoming slide up, and just as it's starting to peak, you would just basically just get out of there. Yeah, I'm not getting sweaty. I'm just getting excited. So anyway, one time, I'm just getting the pages in order, because it's 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, and it's like I'm looking out. There's 320 members of the press, all sitting there, liquored up, ready to go. Horkheimer's doing his Horkheimer thing in the middle of the room, and then he comes back. All right, are you ready? Do you have the slides? Yeah, I've got the slides. Are they in order? Did you check the orders? I'm checking the order now, Jack. What about the Zoom? Is the Zoom ready? Well, Jack, I got the Zoom. The Zoom is as ready as the Zoom's going to be. I mean, I'm looking at the script here. You're saying Zoom left to right. I can do that. So we start the show, and then the beautiful music comes in, and we got this lights around the edge of the dome, this soft lighting, and then the lights slowly drop out of the sky. It's just exactly like it's getting dark outside, and there's the stars, and here comes the opening thing, and I bring up the first slide, and then I bring up the second slide, and then Jack goes, okay, no, not yet, and he's doing this for 4 or 5 minutes, and then finally, that was his voice. That was exactly his voice. It sounded exactly like that. And he said, no, wait, hold on, wait, okay, now, no, too soon, no, wait. And I've never seen this script before, and I'm 16, something like that. And I just turned to him, and I just said, Jack, you're either running the show or I am. Okay, because I will get out of here, and you can run the show. I might have said run the effing show, because I think that would have gotten his attention. And it's like, either let me do it, or you do it. He just cackled and walked off. And I, looking back on it, that was kind of gutsy, because everybody was just terrified about the guy. But honestly, it wasn't like bravery on my part. It was desperation. It's like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I can do this show. Get out of my way. And I did it, and didn't make any mistakes, which was pretty impressive. So that was fun. And afterwards, he came back and said, perfect. It was perfect. You got it absolutely perfect. Well, of course I did, Jack. Why do you think you hired me? What do you think this is? The Democratic National Convention? Of course we're going to get this thing right. Lapco92 with a super chat says, I always thought his lawsuit problem late in life was a terrible injustice to Horkheimer's legacy, a danger of helping troubled people. Yeah, I'll get to that. I'll tell you about that. And then Joe Cool has a super chat. After Trump's historic comeback, maybe you could do a conclusions to your Moving Back to America series. Your insight after January 6th was always good. Thank you. I just came in this morning and I said, just switching gears just for a second. I'll get back to Jack in a second. I came in this morning. I thought, okay, I got to come up with some kind of topic for the Hot Mic show this week, and I don't know. So it's the 6th of June. Today's January. Holy shit, it's J6. Yep, see, I just swore under my breath. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's been up for a couple hours. The latest Hot Mic is called J6 plus 4. And it's a look back at the last 4 years. And yes, Castro, Trudeau is no longer the premier of Canada. It's happening all over the world, folks. It's one of the things I mentioned in the Hot Mic show. So there's a new Hot Mic out if you haven't seen it yet. Justine Castro has resigned as Prime Minister of Canada. Yes. Anyway, so Lapko brings up this sad story. So Jack had two. Well, his whole life was a tragedy. Honestly, he was a really unhappy guy, really lonely guy, and he had developed a chronic lung condition as a kid. Jack Horkheimer, if you saw Star Hustler, he was actually a world-renowned jazz pianist named Jack Foley. I didn't know this until years later, or at least weeks later. Let me just... that's a little better. So he was a tremendous pianist. Well, anyway, but he developed this lung condition. He wasn't expected to live much more than a year. He was up in Wisconsin, I want to say. So he moved to Miami for his lungs because the cold was just killing him. And he ended up living another 30 years or something like that. But the two things that happened to him that were really tragic, and neither one of them, you can't say it wasn't his fault, because it was his fault, both of them. But there was no malice in it, and it was unfair. No, I didn't say that, John. You need to have... everybody knows what they think they heard, but I was very careful with my enunciation when I said a tremendous pianist. So one of them was he decided to have a star party. He said he announced that there was going to be a big star party, some meteor shower or something like this, and announced that they were going to have it out at Crandon Park in Key Biscayne. How did I remember WTMI? My God, that makes me happy, because sometimes I can't remember Tom Cruise's name on this show. Anyway, it got, publicity got out there, and the next thing you know, there's this, like tens of thousands of people out there, and some biking gangs came in there and started roughing people up, and the whole thing was just a flaming wreckage. WKRP in Cincinnati dropping the turkeys out of the helicopter kind of thing, and I don't know if somebody was killed, but some people were badly hurt, and so he had to carry that around. He felt terrible about that. He didn't do any security, because he just said, we're going to get together and have ourselves a little star party out on the beach, and anybody who wants to come along, and announces this to the entire city of Miami, and people thought it was a thing. So there was that, but much more tragic, really. I think it must have really broken his heart, because I know, not only did I know Jack really well, I got to be much closer friends with guys who were closer to Jack and took care of him in his final years and stuff. And Jack had a habit of, which may explain why I was, admitted into the inner sanctum. Jack was one of those guys who collected strays, and and there was some younger man. Horkheimer offered to let him live at this guy's house, let him live at his house because he was just so lonely, you know. And then months or years afterwards, this guy accused Jack of sexual harassment and sued him, and the whole thing became this enormous Miami scandal, and you know, and it just broke him. You know, Jack had his inclinations, but he kept them to himself. I didn't know whether Horkheimer was gay or not until 15 years after I left the planetarium. I just thought he was. Well, I never really. But you know, when you're a kid, you don't even think about these things. This is why I'm so opposed to the whole transgender thing. It's not even because of the transgender thing. Is the kids shouldn't be thinking about this stuff. They shouldn't. This shouldn't be on their radar. I always thought Dr. Smith was just annoying. But he ended up. His final years were in scandal, and he got really sick, and it was just not a good exit, you know. I do remember the last time I saw him, I was, Roadrunner says Paul Lynde was gay. Exactly. It's like, I just thought Paul Lynde was just, you know, funny. Not, and funny, haha funny, not, you know, funny. The last time I saw him, he was in his office, and I walked in, and I've got actually. I was going to save these. Hang on a second here. You want to talk about courage? I'll show you courage. Here's courage, folks. Courage is showing this picture. That's what courage is. Where is it? Where am it? Hang on. I actually pulled them on the desktop. I was going to make a deal out of this next week, and then somehow or another the topic just came up. Give me a second. I'll drag it into the... nope. Where the devil did I put that picture? I've got a picture of me in backstage at the planetarium in the back room. It's badly out of focus, but it gives you an idea of just how... Hang on, it's here somewhere. Well, here I'll drop this for you since we're on the subject. This is the swinging cats of the Miami Planetarium. Hang on there, YouTube. That's Doug Gagan on the right. Phil Trick is looking super boss with his sunglasses. Herb Bradbury's facing away from us, and I'm that scrawny looking chunk of coal on the far left. Hang on a second there, YouTube. I'll grab this for you. So this is from 1973 or 74. Look at Doug Gagan's pants. Come on, not that one, you idiot. Look at Doug Gagan's pants. You've never seen triple knit polyester before. He was a great guy. He died a couple years ago. He was fantastic. Yeah, so that's me on the left in profile. If you want to know what that looked like in person, this is, like I said, this is Genuine Courage. This was actually taken at college. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can show this picture really. I'm really genuinely, you know, I've opened my big mouth now. All right, I'll tell you what, I'll show you this one horrible picture, then I'll show you a nicer one so I can at least go out in some kind of style. This is me probably, certainly this is my sophomore year in college. Look at those massive shoulders. I was a mountain of a man. I could bend railroad ties with my bare hands. What a skinny dweeb. Somebody said smile. So I said, yeah, you want a smile? Here's a smile. That's me wearing my super cool outfit, Planetarium story. Lopka wants to know when I could tell you the story where I was when I heard that McKinley was shot. Well, I was at the saloon, spitting into a spittoon, is where I was. So that's what we were working with. Here, I'm gonna give you one more just so you realize it's not entirely all freaks and geeks here. This is actually kind of a fun picture. This is our filmmaking group in high school. These are the guys that saved me from the disappointment, the heartbreak of losing the Air Force Academy. That's yours truly in the upper right-hand corner, wearing the fro helmet and the bitchin' arrowhead necklace choker. The guy with his arms crossed is my best friend Steve Stipp, and the guy on the bottom with his arms spread is James Blonde himself, my other best friend Fritz Brunner. And we had a lot of fun doing that. I'll show you a picture of my family too. I was going to save these, and we've obviously gotten through half of them now, so there's no point in yeah, it's a recollection night here at the Stratosphere Studio. We'll get to some questions. This is me on the right, and my brother Steve on the left, and my brother Evan in the middle. Hang on, YouTube. You can see when I was out in the sun before I hit hormone age. I was tan, fit, perfect weight, and blonde as the sun. And then all of a sudden I morph into this creature of the night that lives inside this air-conditioned dome in Miami. I think this is the last one. Nope. It's here. I just saw it. Hang on. Where'd it go? I actually like this picture a lot. This is me in my first year in college making movies. There's my friend Steve running the dolly. I have to shrink this down. Sorry about the delay there, YouTube. Just got to do one of these at a time. I really hate this dual stream thing. It's really tedious. And I was going to resize all these. Yeah, there we go. So that's Steve on the dolly. That's me behind the Aeroflex camera shooting my Academy Award nominated student Academy Award nominated film called The Pigeonhole, about registering for college. That was a 16 millimeter film, and notice the affectation of the vest, which was something I just never really put down. Hang on a second, YouTube, I'm getting there. Give me 1 second. Yeah, here we go. Hang on, YouTube, hang on. I know it's just everything's all discombobulated and defragulated and all this crummy stuff. One more time, I ought to get it. Oop. Come on. Oh, there we go. Hang on. I know this is tedious. There's your 16 millimeter filmmaking wunderkind. The vest was needed to get chicks. Yeah, it was an affectation. And what point is there in being a theatrical person if you can't have an affectation? And then I finally have one kind of nice family picture here somewhere because I just saw it. Here it is. Yeah, so this is the Whittle clan in our final days in Bermuda. That's me on the left, being the manager's son, playing by the rules all the time, and just Joe do-gooder. But that's the four of us Steve, who's off to the right, hiding in the bushes, always hated having his picture taken. Couldn't stand it. Just hated it. Those are Bermuda shorts. It's the uniform of Bermuda. You'll notice my dad is also wearing Bermuda shorts as the hotel manager, although he's very, very casual in this picture. But yeah, that's us. That's us. So there you go. Mobile Moto says, I can hear Chicago's catalog playing in the background. Exactly. Oh, please don't go. Ooh. Exactly. All right, let me just turn these off. Enough of this nonsense. We'll get to our questions. I like that picture. But we have a top quality version. Whoa. Okay, of Child of the Universe, thanks to Marusha Dark again, who's just swinging for the fences here. Really, really, really great, really great. Anyway, enough of this reminiscing and stuff. On to the serious business of the unserious business of show business. I'm gonna need a browser window, and I reckon that one will do. Bill Hinman. What a guy. He was a good man. I love that man. He really, really was just a fantastically talented actor. Had the best narration voice I've ever heard, and was the sound of my entire youth. Just Bill Hinman talking in the Miami Planetarium. He was something. Okay, let's see what we got here. Pretty strange life, really. But I look back on it and I just can't believe the luck. You know. My dad looks like Sam Neill, says Dave Big Butte. Dad look a bit like Sam Neill. In Paul Newman did was it The Verdict or The Firm? And it wasn't The Firm, I don't think. The Verdict. It's one of his last movies where he played a lawyer, and there are moments there where my dad looked so much like Paul Newman, it would actually made us gasp a little bit. He was a good-looking dude. Don't know what happened to me. I was struck by a cosmic ray, I reckon, because my mom was beautiful too. Don't look at me, I'm hideous. Did Bill Hinman do TV commercials? He did. Bill Hinman also had a small speaking role. You can actually see Bill Hinman if you are inclined to do so. He had a speaking role in was it called The Final Countdown? Not the Europop song, but the movie where the USS Nimitz goes back in time and they fight the Battle of Pearl Harbor, the something countdown, last countdown, final countdown. But Bill Hinman is in that. He's one of the guys out on the yacht. There's like a yacht that gets strafed by Zeros, and I'm pretty sure he's one of those guys. But he's got a couple lines. The Verdict. That was the movie. Final Countdown. The Final Countdown. Do-do-do-do. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let me just see what I got here. I got a long one from Rodney Rowe, which is a name we don't see too often, and he says right at the bat it's a Thursday question, but it's time sensitive, so we'll definitely do that because we aim to please. And we got a Road Rider, we got a Road Runner, we got an Eric Blake, we got a Marusha Dark, and that's it. Cake, nothing to it. Okay, so this one is a little detailed, but he says it's time sensitive, and just a quick glance of it looks not only time sensitive, a little bit alarming too. All right, here we go. Rodney Rowe. Hi, Rodney. Hail, Bill. Hail, Rodney. I know this is a Thursday topic, but it's really time sensitive, so I hope you'll indulge me. Consider yourself indulged, my friend. Thank you for your membership. You and everyone really needs to listen to the Sean Ryan Show podcast with Sarah Adams. It's the most recent interview about 3 weeks ago. Here's a link. She's the real deal former CIA analyst who did the tours from Benghazi to Afghanistan. I have heard her. It took me a second to put them together, but I heard this interview. Yes, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. She's still at state and is also gathering intelligence with her own group. This episode will blow your mind, and nobody was paying attention to her podcast with Sean until we got the 2 terror attacks. She has intel that our government cannot get because the people we trained in Afghanistan for 20 years hates our government for abandoning them, and I don't blame them one little bit. That was me editorializing. And will not talk to them, but they still do talk to the guys who are out taking second mortgages, cashing in their 401ks to help keep them fed and on the run from the Taliban. My God, that's true. And so noble and so disgraceful, all in the same mouthful. Good Lord, we deserve a better government than what we've had, and I think we're going to get one. I'm not going to go into the whole episode, but let's just say she covers the coming terror attack backed by al-Qaeda, headed by Hamza bin Laden, who wants revenge for his father. There are over 1,000 trained fighters who are in this country and waiting for the go signal. What they've been able to do since the Biden administration has been sending the Taliban $40 to $80 million a week is just insane. Swell. When Sean Ryan, a Tier 1 operator, former CIA asset, watches al-Qaeda's latest training videos of how they clear rooms and says, oh shit, that's not good. In other words, al-Qaeda has learned how to do what our special forces guys do. And thanks to Joe Biden, they've got 16,000 pairs of night vision goggles to do it at nighttime with. Also, his latest video with Sam Shoemate cover an email sent by the Vegas bomber that is just insane and covers the drones in New Jersey. They vetted his credentials, and he's got the clearance and training in the drone tech, as well as names war crimes and cover-ups, as well as people that the government demanded they redact the names because they're still operational. I had not thought about the drones as being domestic terror as an option, but having seen what drones are doing in Ukraine, having seen in revolting detail how effective those things are in Ukraine, that's pretty interesting explanation for the drones, and also why no one can talk about them. Government can't come out and very well. So it's just a rehearsal for a terror attack that al-Qaeda here in the United States is preparing to launch. This is crazy. He claimed the drones are Chinese and launched from a sub. Show of force from China, just like the balloon. He tells them about the VBID in the email as well. I guess VBID would be vehicular something. What is it? Not improvisational device. IED, improvised explosive device. I guess it's something like that. Please check out All Out and give us the most insane set of hot mics and right angles ever. I will definitely VBIED. Yeah. I am going to. Steve Whip says, "How have you not seen these drones as domestic terror?" Because I'm fundamentally Boy Scout guy, and I don't my mind just generally doesn't go to those possibilities. I thought they might have been Iranian, or possibility they were some foreign government flexing their muscles. That's what somebody here is saying that they are, but the idea that they were rehearsing terror attacks had not occurred to me, because it didn't seem smart to me to be rehearsing terror attacks, give the game away. But then I realized, of course, they rehearsed the 9/11 attacks. And who was it who was on one of those planes? Was it James Woods? Was on one of the planes where the Muhammad Atta and his crew got on board as a rehearsal? Somebody famous saw that and reported them. I thought it might have been James. It was James Woods. Yeah, it figures. Let me just get this out of the way before I come back to this. Lapco92 with a super chat. Don't want to miss it. Speaking of Final Countdown, there's an interesting manga and anime called Zippang, where a modern JSDF destroyers, I guess a Japanese self-defense force destroyer, encounters a storm and finds itself in the middle of the IJN fleet before midway. Well, turnabout is fair play, I guess. Seth MacFarlane was hung over in Boston, or else he would have been on Flight 11. I'd heard that, and it just like, wow. So much for Family Guy. So, Rodney, let me take a look at that interview, and just brought it up here, and I'll drag it onto my bookmarks bar so I don't just close it out, and I'll try and get that on the next hot mic. I've been keeping them to one a week. I want to do more than one a week. I just did one. I'm happy to do another one. We record. How long is this? No, it's an hour and 50 minutes. So we record our right angles tomorrow morning. I will see if I can listen to some of it, enough of it tonight to get it into a right angle. More likely I have to do it as a hot mic in a couple days. It seems like the most likely case. So anyway, thank you for this, and I'm glad we took it, because I agree, time sensitive, and Thursday is Thursday, so, get the idea. Thank you for providing that, and I appreciate you going to all that trouble, and I'm certainly glad you sounded the alarm on that, because I get the feeling we're gonna be seeing. Well, like I said, when I did we win the war? Winning the war and ending the war are two different things, usually separated by about 18 months. During those final 18 months is when all of the real blood starts to flow. So the damage to the country has been done. These people are in the country. We're going to start exporting them. We're going to deporting them, rather. But once it's clear that, I'm just hoping that there's enough people left. I'm hoping, and I'm not saying that I believe this, mind you. I'm just hoping that the FBI has not completely dropped the ball, and that we're, aware of at least some major part of this. But if it turns out that's not the case, I wouldn't be surprised. Dave Big Booty points out that 18 months puts us right at July 4th, 2026, the semi-quincentennial. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Moving on. Road Rider. Other than Happy New Year to you, Natasha, Shelley, and Bean, I got nothing. I will support this endeavor for another year. Thank you, Road Rider. Oh, and my best Arnold Horshack, Cotter. Ooh. Go Flight 7 on the 10th, 4 p.m. Central Time. Yes, Flight 7 on the 10th. Let me check my schedule. That's Friday. 4 p.m. Central, which would be 2 Pacific. Crud. I've got something at 3. I've got to be at Prager at 3. I can be at Prager at 3, and I've got a chiropractor in the morning. If they launch on time, I can do it. If they're delayed by much more than a half an hour, I can't. PragerU has asked me to do another one of the presidential series. They want me to do Bill Clinton, so I need to. Let me make sure that's in my phone and not just on. Sorry about the delay, but that one's important. I got to make sure I got that. Okay. Do I have the address? I got Bubba, yeah. We talked about it on the phone in some length, and, I said, well, my take on this is Bill Clinton is by far the luckiest president that the country's ever seen. He arrived in the middle of the peace dividend. The Cold War was over. History was over. Nothing really happened in the world in our in foreign policy during the 90s that fundamentally affected the country the way that Islamic terror would just a few years later. Lapko says if I do Bill Clinton, I should save the dress. Well, you got that right. And just everything about him was he's just lucky. He did a lot of damage, but and I don't mean to take anything away from how loathsome he was, but I never thought that Bill Clinton was evil. I just thought he was a guy who was just a man-child. His wife, on the other hand, is evil, and I wonder how much of the Clinton presidency was Hillary, because Bill just seemed like kind of a good old boy who figured being president of the United States is probably the best way to get laid, and Hillary just strikes me as, you know, she's just Sauron. So we'll see. But thank you very much for that, Road Rider. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the membership and the support. So thank you for that. Roadrunner NM, greetings, friend William. Hello to you, Roadrunner. Have you had any success in scheduling anyone for story mechanics yet? No, I was going to actually do that. I will be doing that this week. I was going to do it this morning, but I came in and I just said, oh my God, I got a hot mic I can do, and I got to get it out immediately because it's January 6th today. If I'd had the thought yesterday, I could have relaxed, but I just went full burners into it, and from the time I came in and sat down to the time that I got the thing posted was probably about 2.5 hours, which is blindingly fast considering there were a fair number of photos that I had to get for that video together. So that's out there now if you haven't seen it already. It's called J6 plus 4. But the next thing that happens is the call goes out to Mike Rowe, and I think it was Ian Nolan who said he's going to be checking in on me weekly, and I've been preparing to face the wrath of Ian Nolan, and I'm joking about that because I deeply appreciate it. I have not heard back from the guy yet who told me he'd have those major Mace Mattingly things finished, so I'm going to send him off an email as soon as we close this baby out. It's really from the week before Thanksgiving until today, Monday today, is the first day where people are really back to work. I know that technically speaking, Thursday and Friday were work days last week, but it's just, just didn't really count. So, I'm going to make tomorrow morning, I'm going to email Mike Rowe's agent and producer and friend, and we'll get that in the can. So, looking forward to that an awful lot. So we'll get on that. Otherwise, have I thought about live streaming the Starship launch? If I can squeeze it in, I will. I might. I do not want to try to reschedule Prager. I'm going to skip Eric Blake's question this week just because I'm short on time. The only reason I said that is because Eric Blake in big capital letters says, here we go. Here comes my question. Here comes my question. No, I'm not going to skip it, Eric. You've been kind about me doing one of those. So we're definitely going to get to it. Here we go. Here we go. Here comes Eric Blake's question. Everybody ready? Here we go. Okay, here we go. Tonight, the case of the musical Memory Lane. Dun, 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 dun. Every time with Eric is a noir experience. I'm not saying it's film noir. I'm just saying it's noir. Hey, Bill, do you recall the Virgin America Airlines safety music vid that inspired you so much that the king of conservatives should be doing? Yes, the safety dance. The Virgin America did a canned version of the standard airline announcement, and it was so excellent. It was just so great that I've personally watched it 15 times. And I saw it on the airplane because I loved Virgin America. Virgin America, it was only around for a couple of years, but man, I loved Virgin America. It was just the best flying experience I've ever had. And they did this thing called Safety Dance, and I saw it on the plane, and as soon as I got off the plane, I came home and watched it 5 or 6 times. And I said, the genius of this is they've taken the most boring information available, and not only is it boring, but it's information I've heard 1,000 times. And I can't get enough of it. We should be using this method to teach American history. Anyway, that's the backstory. Now, do you recall how the vid inspired you to think up a George Washington was a swinging, deadly dude vid co-starring Kelly Carlson and other sexy conservative starlists redressing Georgian style? I do remember this, yes. Anyway, I've got an idea. Thinking about Jeremy's sexy cool ads for his razor company, why not pitch that sexy cool George Washington vid idea to him? That's a damn good idea because George Washington is Jeremy Boring's all-time hero. Jeremy is just plain gaga over George Washington, and that's really a terrific idea. He's certainly got the resources in game to do that sort of thing, written and directed by you, of course. It'd be a great sort of commercial for DW's artistic ambitions. All you guys need is a good dance choreographer and Kelly, of course. Yes. Let me chew on that, Eric. It is a superb idea. I don't have to think about whether or not it's a good idea. It's a great idea. Let me think about the best way to put that, because it's a terrific idea. And I would just be blatantly ripping it off. The other piece of video that's very much, it's not like Safety Dance, it just came at the same time and had the same effect on me. And that is a piece done, I forgot the name of the artist, but it's Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, which is an enormous musical number set to a tune that is just plain bizarre, about being out in the woods with Shia LaBeouf, who's an actual cannibal, and you chop off his arms and he still keeps coming at you, and Shia LaBeouf makes a cameo appearance at the end of it, and it's got this incredible, orchestra and a choir, and it's just a huge production, incredibly huge production over the most banal, weird, unlikely song, and that's what gives it so much power. By the way, maybe on Thursday, it's probably more a Monday topic, we get Long Journey out of the way, but it's time to start talking about brain rot and the alphas and what the alphas are watching, and Skibbity Toilet and things like that, because it's getting kind of alarming out there in terms of that. So okay, sounds great. It's a great idea, Eric. I'm going to chew on that and think it over a little bit, and I'll let you know. And thanks very much, because it is makes me. I'm going to watch the Safety Dance video when this is over, because John Pershing, I think, just popped a link. Was it to Safety Dance? Yes, it is. I just even the first frame, I just love it. 2.3 million views of people checking in to learn how to fasten their seatbelts and use the oxygen masks, which in the unlikely event of a depressurization will drop from the cabin above you. Oh, Marusha Dark is picking up the trend now. I see where this is going. Marusha Dark, tonight, the case of the stolen tagline. Come on in. The man who stole Eric Blake's hat is in the office. Oh, I see what's going on now. Now, there's going to be blood in the comment section. Blood on the tracks. Chris Elazar says, I know a great dance choreographer in LA. I'll take you up on that, Chris. If we can run this idea any further, then I will make an announcement, and I will definitely take you up on that, because I love great choreography. I love to watch really great dancers. I love the cuts to the old time movie stars dancing to Uptown Funk and all that stuff. I just love it. Makes me happy. One of the things that influenced my most recent affectation, which is years behind me now, but nevertheless, and that's that skinny suits and skinny ties thing. Rob Cantor was his name, yes, who did Actual Cannibal. Thank you for that, Lapko. But one of my all-time, there's a number from the Hairspray movie called hang on. The Nicest Kids in Town. And I've forgotten the name. James somebody is playing Corny Collins, the DJ, and he's wearing this blue thin lapel 60s suit, because this thing is set in the 60s. And if you watch The Nicest Kids in Town, if you really want to know the inner secrets of Bill Whittle's labyrinthine, and dark, complex personality, I want to be Corny Collins in that video. I want to be that guy so bad I can't stand it. I can't stand it. just the moves and all of it. I love it. I love it. I'd love to do a musical number. I think it'd be really really fun. Really fun. Okay, back to Marusha Dark, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, come on in. The man who stole Eric Blake's hat is in the office. And by the way, as much as I appreciate it, you can stop covering for me at this point. It's been a year now since I've been out. I hold your oaths fulfilled. Meaning Marusha Dark, the famously mysterious Marusha Dark, is actually a man, not a woman. Although Marusha is a female-y kind of sounding thing. The whole thing was a giant experiment, social experiment on the part of Marusha to see if people treated him differently based on how he presented himself online. So my hold our oaths fulfilled, so I don't have to pretend whether it's a man or a woman anymore. Marusha Dark, he or she, it's a he. So that's earth-shaking news for those longtime fans of the Stratosphere Entertainment Leviathan. Good to hear. Just a very nice comment. I'll get right back here. Ann Kennedy writes, 18 months, true statement. It's always refreshing to listen to you, Bill, a voice of reason and genuine transparency without spin or a teleprompter. Thank you. Excellent and enjoyable conversations. That's very, very kind. And thank you so much. It really means the world to me to hear those kind of things. It's a small audience, but it's a great one. The best people in the world, the smartest people in the world, and that just means the world to me. So thank you very much for those kind words. You really have no idea how much those things power the whole endeavor. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Recently, I've watched a few movies, including Don't Look Up, Knives Out, and Glass Onion. As stories, I quite enjoyed them. The plots hold up rather well in each case, and I thought the characters on balance were quite interesting if taken as individuals, except my only real gripe with all three films is that when it comes to depicting right-wingers, they're more often of a stereotype of some of the worst aspects of right-wingers. Yes, they don't know us. They only think they hate the caricature that they made of us. That's what the left's all about. They just have a burning homicidal hatred for this cartoon character of conservatives that they've made for themselves. That's progressivism in a nutshell. I'm trying to be fair about it, since none of these movies are really meant to be taken seriously, and a lot of the overt left-wingers in them are also cartoon villains, but I just don't see it as being particularly even-handed, which is a shame. That's because storytelling is conservative, but Hollywood is liberal. Because as I said, they're otherwise pretty good stories. Compare that to something like Squid Game, where I felt it was much less caricatured. I'm reminded of a line I heard recently which says, politics isn't the problem, preaching is. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you can tell a political story if it's a good story. It's been a long, long time since I saw All the President's Men, but I remember that being fairly riveting storytelling, so it's definitely possible to do politics as politics and still tell a good story. It's just when you put politics into things that you get preaching, and that's when everything goes straight to hell. Depicting without necessarily promoting. I've certainly tried to do this in my own work, giving each side their due, highlighting their strengths and weaknesses in a fair way, even as I have my own preferences and biases. How do you personally generally go about this? If you had to write a story about a good liberal and a bad conservative, since we all know you're more than capable of the inverse. Thank you. Well, if I had to write a good liberal and a bad conservative, I would cherry pick characteristics and real people. First time chat from Ivoy. Hey to you too, Ivoy. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So no two people are the same, obviously. When you get right down to it, every single one of us is a political party of one. Nobody believes exactly the same thing that we believe about all these other things, So there are all different, and just obviously this is self-evident. There's an enormous spectrum of people's political opinions. There are things about conservatives that I find to be not unique to conservatives, but dominant in conservatives, and some few of these things I think are not attractive qualities. Likewise, there are elements of liberalism that I find to be good-hearted but misguided, um, and uh, and I suppose the way I would do that is I would take the qualities that I found what's the word I'm looking for here, harmful to conservative movement that conservatives have, and I would make a character around that, and then I would take the qualities that I like best about liberals and disconnect it from the consequences of those beliefs. So if you cherry pick things in that way, you can write bad conservatives and good liberals. And then I would take the saturation down to about 20%, because, as you said, um, preachiness is the problem. So when I say I would desaturate it, is I would write a bad conservative at 100% saturation, then I'd walk the saturation back to 20%. Then you'd have just a guy who had qualities that made him a bad conservative without him being the bad conservative. And I do the same thing for the liberal. I would write them in the extreme, and then I'd walk it way back, because it's the saturation that's the preachiness. That's where you get, the big speeches and the sneering attitudes and the Mr. Burns excellent, ever since the dawn of man, ever since the dawn of history, man has dreamed of blocking out the sun, that kind of thing. What they do with The Simpsons, with Mr. Burns as an example, is they take conservatives and they take the saturation up to 300. They take it over the top, completely over the top. Release the hounds, and all of that stuff. So the main thing to do would be to cherry pick the qualities so that they're accurate qualities, so that you're not putting words in people's mouths that they wouldn't speak. Take the best parts of liberalism, write a good liberal. Take the worst parts of conservatism, write a bad conservative. And now you've got these two archetypical, highly saturated cartoon pictures of these things. Then just bleach out most of that stuff and take it down to a level where it's more of an inclination rather than a declaration. It's rather pithy, if I say so myself. So that'll do it for the questions, and I guess that'll do it for the show tonight, which has been a lot of fun. I always love these trips down memory lane. Now the thing we have to do is we have to find different areas of memory lane to go visit, because we keep visiting the same areas of memory lane, and it's getting to be like, yeah, I know this corner. You don't need to tell me about this corner again. I've already seen this 5 times. So we get the idea. So I think that'll probably do it. This is a fair question as a follow-up. What do I consider the worst parts of conservatives and the best parts of liberals? Well, I mentioned some of them. Conservatives can be... I think my biggest problem with, and again, it's not all conservatives, may not even be most conservatives, but it is a quality that conservatives tend to have, and that is having been raised by actual families with fathers in the house, and being, not only do I not think there's any question about this anecdotally, there's just tons and tons and tons of psychological evidence and studies that prove that conservatives are not only happier than liberals, they come from much better homes, they're much better psychologically adjusted, they're much less neurotic than liberals. Because they're less neurotic and less damaged, speaking in generalities that are very largely true, conservatives have a blind spot when it comes to aberrant and abhorrent behavior. The classic example is Nancy Reagan saying, well, just say no to drugs. Just say no. It's just that easy. Just say no. Having spent some time with addicts, they got that message early. It's not like they're not aware of this. It's not a news flash to them that they shouldn't be using drugs. It's if they could just say no, they would just say no. And because there are people who can say, no, I've had 2 margaritas. I'm fine for the night. I wish I hadn't had the second one. I was perfectly fine after the first one. because there are people like that. In fact, probably most people are like that. No, that's it. 2 beers is good for me. There are people out there who can't stop at 2 beers or 2 margaritas, and they can't stop at 5. And it is a quality of conservatives to not be able to understand that it's not maliciousness or laziness or even a lack of willpower on the part of people who are addicts or alcoholics, as an example. It is they are incapable of it. It's not a question of laziness or willpower or weakness. It is weakness. There's no question. But they're broken. They're not unwilling. They're unable. And you're asking people to do things that they are unable to do. And that's a blind spot, which I think I could be particularly useful in decoding, having been on the other side of that fence. The quality of liberals that I think is admirable is, on some level, the flip side of this, and that is a concern for other people. But the problem is that most of the time, this is what I talk about by taking down the saturation. When I look at liberals talking about other people, all I see almost all the time is narcissism, is look at what a great person I am because I care about black people so much. I as a white person, I've got to check my own privilege and all of this other stuff, which is condescending, racist, and narcissistic. Virtue signaling is nothing but narcissism with a trumpet. Look at how good I am. Look at how unbelievably empathetic I am. I'm a masterpiece of intellectual reason and balance and all the rest of it. I am so intellectually advanced that I can see Al Qaeda's side of the argument. You know, those kind of people. It's like you are so open-minded that you are incapable of deciphering reality. They are just plain bragging. And it's not just a form of narcissism. It is a form of genuine arrogance to basically say that I am a white liberal. I must champion the cause of the black man because black people are not capable of taking care of themselves. That's what they're saying. That is the progressive disease in a nutshell. I, as a white progressive with all of my privilege and benefits, must fight for these poor, disadvantaged souls who are not capable of taking care of themselves. Of course I'm against voter ID laws. Black people can't get IDs. It's so hard for them to get around town. That kind of thing is the common result of this, of what in its best form is genuine concern for your neighbor's welfare. I mean, if you are forced to be concerned about your neighbor, that's not charity or compassion. That's just coercion. But good people will help people when they're down. This is another conservative blind spot. There is a strain of conservatives who say that any kind of aid to people is just plain wrong. I remember we did a trifecta on this, where it was like a marathon race, and somebody fell down, and one of the runners stopped and picked the person up and helped carry them across the finish line. And because of this, they lost the race. And there were a number of conservatives who said that this was just a stupid, pointless thing to do. And Scott and Steve and I, all three of us, thought that there was something really noble about that there was something good about that that's what sportsmanship is. And there are certain conservatives who say, no, that guy's got no obligation. He's got no obligation to pick up that person that fell. And I'm saying, I agree that they have no obligation, and making it obligatory is in fact evil, but they're not obligated to do it. They're doing it because they choose to do it. That there's something really quite noble about that, and this is the kind of gray areas on the perimeters where you don't find many conservatives who say, "Oh my God, it's a disgrace that he helped this person across the finish line." Most conservatives would say, "Good for you." You know, good for you. You put humanity ahead of selfishness in this particular case. Conservatives are all about selfishness, and you should, as long as you have the choice, right? As long as you have the choice to win the race, as long as you're not expected or forced to help them, then I think I admire it, and I feel sorry for people who are not capable of seeing nobility in that. That's a form of it's not it's I almost said empathy or compassion, but it's bigger than that. It's a form of humanity. It's how I would like to be treated. You know, that's really ultimately it. It's a form of the golden rule. If you pick up somebody when they stumble and fall, even if it costs you the win, you like to think that somebody would pick you up if you stumble and fall, even if it costs them. This is the idea. My brother was going to work one day and he saw this car on fire, and there was a person inside the car. We were just raised this way. We don't even think about it. So my brother Steve was a year younger than me. Driving along, sees this car burning, sees somebody inside the car who's in a state of shock. Stevie just slams on the brake, has the presence of mind. He sure as hell didn't get out his phone, I can tell you that. Slams on the brake, pops the trunk, grabs his tire iron, goes over there, smashes the window, opens the door, pulls the person out of there, saved the person's life. Then he gets back and goes to work, and he's 10 minutes late. Didn't say a word about it. We didn't know about it until we heard about it on the news. So, you know, does he have an obligation to do that? Doesn't. No, I don't think he has an obligation to do it, but I'd rather live in a society of people like my brother Steve who pull people out of burning cars than one that people just drive by and say, well, it's not my problem. Because you might find yourself in a burning car one day, and that would be nice to have somebody come in and pull you out of there, I would think. Seems that way to me anyway. All right, well, that'll do it for tonight. And this show's made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, who have been stalwart throughout all of this days of hope and glory and dark nights of the soul and all the rest of it. And we're not going anywhere, and we're not going anywhere thanks to the members who continue to pay for this. I almost said a mom and pop operation, but I think it was last show I said it's just a pop operation, really. That's a mom and pop when you count Shelley. And Steve and Scott are, you know, Uncle Steve and Uncle Scott. And it'd be nice to get the membership up, get Zoe back on the team again, and a lot of other things. But we'll get to that in 2025. I think it's going to be a great year. I think it's going to be a great 4 years. I think it's going to be, could be the beginning of something that could last a long, long time. You know, could be a genuine revival. We'll see. But in any event, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of the Stratosphere crew. We're going to say goodnight to our friends over on YouTube. We'll see you on Thursday night, YouTube. I was going to make it a Friday night show, but that was for the launch. Looks like the launch is in the afternoon. So, yeah, Shelley is awesome. And so if I can do a live stream, it might be difficult with the fact that I've got something before and after. So I don't want to make any promises to that. But if I can get in the chair and get it set up, then I'll make a quick announcement on Facebook, and I'd love to do it live. But it's going to be a little dicey on Friday. But we'll do our best. We'll see what we can do. And thank you for that, Steve. I appreciate that. And we'll get Bean in here. Bean's slowing down. He's getting to be an older gentleman, but he's still a good little boy. All right, thanks for joining us, YouTube, and we will see you here Thursday night for the Stratosphere Lounge.